An Israeli intelligence official has admitted that the State of Israel was behind 9/11, and the Black Swan event was designed to sabotage the American project and enslave the people. The Saudis and the Israelis worked together on behalf of the global elite to light the fuse that marked the acceleration towards the destruction of the American Republic. Ever since 9/11, the US has been a police state, owned and controlled by the globalists, who are continuing to tighten the screws to this day. Before we dive in, subscribe to the People's Voice Rumble channel, join the People's Voice Locals community to join our incredible team and hold the elite to account, and check out the brand new free speech forum at community.thepeoplesvoice.tv. The globalist plot to turn America into a police state controlled by hidden hands has been hiding in plain sight for decades. In 1996, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu conveniently predicted the 9/11 false flag, right down to the details. Remember, according to the official narrative, 2 planes flying into the Twin Towers in the heart of Manhattan was supposed to be a Black Swan event that nobody could have ever predicted.
I said that the West really doesn't understand militant Islam. So I wrote a book in 1995, and I said that if the West doesn't wake up to the suicidal nature of militant Islam, the next thing you'll see is the militant Islam is bringing down the World Trade Center.
How convenient. Famous Freemason Albert Pike warned us in 1871 that the global elite would use Israel to foment division in the world and spark World War III. And now we're seeing this play out in front of our very eyes. Last October, the People's Voice broke the news that Israeli military and intelligence agencies had advanced knowledge of the Hamas attack on October the 7th. We were called conspiracy theorists, and the mainstream media tried to have us cancelled. Unfortunately for the corrupt mainstream media and fact-checkers, our audience are wise to their game. Our audience understands that globalist deceptions will inevitably be revealed for all to see. It simply requires patience. Fast forward to last week, and the Israeli mainstream media have finally been forced to admit the truth. Yet another case of so-called conspiracy theorists bringing you tomorrow's news today. It's also another case of Israel having advanced knowledge of a devastating terror attack that just so happens to benefit the State of Israel. On the day of 9/11, 5 Israelis who were caught photographing the collapse of the towers and celebrating were arrested and detained for several weeks. In documents later released by Freedom of Information requests, the FBI redacted their faces and pictures where they were posing in front of the burning towers and described them as being happy and jovial. One of the dancing Israelis said, "Israel now has hope that the world will understand us." At the end of the declassified document, the Israelis were asked if they had advanced knowledge of the event and were there to witness and record it. Their answer was redacted. When they were released, they returned to Israel and went on television.
Advanced knowledge of what was going to happen on 9/11. How clear are investigators that some Israeli agents may have known something?
Well, it's very explosive information, obviously, and there's a great deal of evidence that they say they have collected. None of it necessarily conclusive. It's more when they put it all together. A bigger question, they say, is how could they not have known? Almost a direct quote, Britt.
It is now apparent that this intelligence ring was inside the U.S., had prior knowledge of 9/11, and had a classified role in 9/11, which officials refused to discuss. It was also able to penetrate U.S. intelligence agencies and secret offices, yet all were released. The men who were detained due to the report they were taping the first plane crash and then celebrating and joking about it actually went on television and admitted it was their job to record the attack.
And at that point we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad. The fact of the matter is we are coming from a country that experiences terror daily. Our purpose was to document the event.
How could they have known about the attack? And who sent them to document it?
This is damning. We have evidence that Israeli agents, who were posing as art students, were sent to document the attacks.
The majority of those questioned, quote, stated they served in military intelligence, electronic surveillance intercept, and/or explosive ordnance units.
This is the kind of report that would never be broadcast by a TV news outlet today. Cable networks are completely overrun by intelligence operatives, and egregious cases like CNN and MSNBC are not even trying to hide it anymore. But these cable TV reports did not go all the way down the rabbit hole. In March 2000, several of the Mossad art students were living in the World Trade Center as part of the World Views Artist in Residence project, with financial support from globalist kingpin David Rockefeller. They occupied floors 90 and 91, where walls were unfinished and structural beams were exposed. One of these fake artists, Hanan Safati, was arrested by the DEA as part of the Israeli spy ring. There were 14 other Israelis involved in the project, but we don't know their names because they've been redacted.
These Israeli artists were sharing the space with a group of Austrian artists known as Gelatin, who were working on a project called The Bee Thing that involved removing windows on the 91st floor of the North Tower. A small balcony was constructed for people to stand on while photographs were taken by a helicopter. Another group called E-Team managed the helicopter with the designation number N666LH. This helicopter was to be in an art exhibit memorializing this project, scheduled for September 11th, 2001. In March of 2001, E-Team had an art project called 127 Windows. Officially, they were going to write their name on the exterior of the tower. They had an artist's rendering of what the project was supposed to look like, but it never appears to have happened. And on 9/11, American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into the exact spot where they were supposedly preparing to do this. In 2001, Gelatin published a book on the project and described it as conspiratorial work. It includes a drawing of someone falling headfirst from the 91st floor with the words, 300 meters of pure pleasure. Gelatin was originally spelled the same as the explosive, but was officially changed in 2005. And the 9/11 Commission report does not mention Gelatin, E-Team, or any of the Israeli Mossad art students.
So now we know that Netanyahu knew about the very specific details of 9/11 years in advance. And we know that the dancing Israelis were actually military intelligence agents who served in explosive ordnance units and were sent, at the very least, to document the attacks and their preparations. But it gets even worse. Up next, evidence the globalist attack on America goes all the way to the top. Unfortunately, the spook-infested mainstream media is determined to suppress the information, and social media has also been infiltrated by big government hell-bent on hardcore censorship. It's not just you and me having our voices silenced. Far-left AOC actually admitted this week all of her colleagues on Capitol Hill, regardless of which side of the aisle they're on, are absolutely terrified of Israel. Gee, I wonder why.
And too many of my colleagues, I'm afraid, are compromised in this area for whatever reason. Somebody just whispered in their ear, said, hey, you don't want something to come out on something else, you better keep your mouth shut on this. And that's exactly what they've done.
The globalist elites are all implicated. A report released more than 20 years late by CBS provides evidence that the Saudi Arabia government helped the globalists plan the attacks.
CBS just got a video that supports an allegation that was made in a lawsuit by the 9/11 families that it wasn't just about Osama bin Laden. Not just Al-Qaeda. This guy is a Saudi official. And that the Saudi government was involved. Now, is this the first time we've ever heard this? No, but we've never given a damn. And that's the part that just finally slapped me today, as someone who supposedly cares about what happened that day because I lost so many people I knew, and we would never forget, and all these things I could say that romanticized our attachment to that catastrophe. But we've just ignored this reality. You haven't been smothered by this today. The tape showing this guy, this alleged Saudi official, basically casing D.C. before the attacks.
Chris Cuomo may be shocked, but he's always been a useful idiot. Globalist goons, including Joe Biden, another useful idiot, also appear to have foreknowledge of 9/11 and understood that Israel had plans to terrorize America and mobilize the US military to invade the Middle East and destabilize the world with a series of disastrous forever wars that were not in the US national interest.
I don't believe that the Palestinian Authority has done nearly what they could do to impact upon the violence in Israel. But it's awfully hard to sit here and judge the Israeli reaction and be critical of it in light of what happened in the middle of downtown one of their major cities. I mean, can you imagine that happening in America?
It's no wonder Biden has always toed the line and declared himself a Zionist. He knows his history and what happened to John F. Kennedy Jr.
Our members of Congress have all been bought and paid for with tax dollars given to the American Israeli Political Action Committee, known as AIPAC. AIPAC openly brags about this on their official website because they don't have to register under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which requires agents of foreign principals to register and provide transparency. Beginning in 1962, they were known as the American Zionist Council, and President John F. Kennedy was ordering them to register as a foreign agent. Along with members of the U.S. government, the Zionists fought against this. In October of 1963, forms were prepared for them to register, but the next month, JFK was assassinated, and Israel has never been asked to register since. 4 years later, Israel attacked the USS Liberty, murdering dozens of Americans and injuring over 100. The U.S. government helped them cover it up as an accident.
We are living in critical times, and here at The People's Voice, we're determined to expose the elite, disrupt their plans, and serve them with justice before it's too late.